Hello, everyone. Welcome to Untamed Mind Season 2. I am so excited to share with you all my plans for Season 2. And if you're new here, hello, welcome. I am Jessica, the host of Untamed Minds podcast. And if you've been following me since the first season, thank you so much for still being here. I really appreciate all of your continued support. But before I talk a little bit more and introduce my guest star here, I do want to remind you all the reason why I have decided to create this podcast. The reason why is because I'm very passionate about, bringing awareness and acknowledging mental health, especially within our Hmong community. We tend to have a lot of stereotypes and there's a lot of stigma around the topic of mental health. So I want to have this platform to bring on guest stars to share their experiences, stories, the mental health journeys, and just seeing their resilience and how we can all unify together as a community to normalize mental health and how important it is to acknowledge it and just destigmatize it altogether. So that's the reason why I am, still continuing my podcast platform here. So, like I said, for today's topic, we'll be talking about mental health and work. So just those two words by itself is a lot. It's kind of heavy for me, but I do have my best friend here, Manie. If you guys, again, if you guys have seen or have heard my first season, she has been a guest star there as well, where we talked about confidence. So Manny and I kind of giving like a a story of how we know each other. So we actually knew each other from dance. So to you dancers out there, hello. And we've been, really close ever since. So it's been like 5, 6 years. And I'm really glad that Manny is here with us again to talk about her stories and just sharing her experiences and how this can be relatable to all of the listeners out there. So, Manny, if you can introduce yourself, maybe give us like a fun fact.
Hi guys, it's great to be back on here with Jessica at Untamed Minds. I am Manny Zhang, and a fun fact about me, um, my favorite fruit is durian.
Oh my god. Yeah, I hate durian. Oh my gosh.
I know
But
not
yeah,
a lot
that
of
is
people like it.
every time like Manny and I hang out and she eats durian, I'm like, get away from me. Like I know I don't like that. Okay, so before we dive into like the questions of the topic, I do have a quick icebreaker question for us to answer. So the question is, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Um, I'd say for as long as I can remember, I think I wanted to be a nurse because my sister went into nursing, and so I was like, if she can do it, I can too. But for a long time of my like childhood, all I knew was Hmong dancing, and so I didn't really think about that up until like I would say middle school. Like even those questions that you get asked like in elementary, I don't remember what I would say to the teachers and stuff. So from what I can remember, I wanted to be a nurse.
Wow, that's so interesting for me 'cause I never knew that. Oh my god, that's so crazy. I guess to answer that question, when I was a little kid, I've always wanted to become a teacher, and I feel like it's because, like, we were always in school and, obviously we had teachers and everything, so it's like I always wonder, like, how it was to be out there presenting. So, funny story, I used to, like, steal chalk from, like, my, like, elementary, teachers and just, like, go to, like, the backyard because back then I used to go on the bus with my cousins and we all went to the same school. So then like every day after school, like in the spring and summertime, they have like it was like a wooden board in the back, and I would just like take the chalk and like pretend to be a teacher and stuff. So I know I've always wanted to be a teacher.
I
I'm
remember
not
you
that.
telling me that. Yep, I remember you telling me that.
I don't remember. Okay,
Like you would
yeah.
you
So
would grade your what is it, your cousins and their papers.
I know. I didn't even know the answer myself. But yeah. So thank you for answering that quick icebreaker question. So like I mentioned before, today's topic is going to be about mental health and work. So of course, talking about your first job, right? What was it, and what was something that you learned from your first job?
Yeah, so my first job, I was a customer service sales representative or sales associate at JC Penney. So JC Penney was like my first job. I think that was I want to say like junior year or senior year in high school. And what I learned from it was um being like really fast paced and teamwork because since it was retail, like we did a lot of fitting room stuff, and on the weekends it would get really busy and like the fitting rooms would just be packed. And so you had to be like really quick and fast. So that is definitely one thing I learned from it. And also teamwork, like I said, because throughout the days you have to like you have like specific goals that you have to meet by the end of the night, and so um yeah, it was fun. I actually liked it because it was like time went by really fast because you're constantly moving.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's what I like too.
Wow, that's interesting. Well, obviously for me, I mean, I've told you before, I worked at Walmart as a cashier. I was only like 16. So that was like my very, very first job. And it's funny that you say the first thing you learn is teamwork, or like you remember learning about teamwork. As a cashier, you don't really have that like hands-on with your team. It's all like customer service, So you're handling with people's like money, and people get cranky. So honestly, if I'm, like, reflecting back right now, the only thing that I learned from it was that, like, I got my ass yelled at by a lot of customers,
Oh my
and I
God.
think because yeah, and I was 16, I remember crying, but I think, like, ever since that incident, like, I have learned how to, like, become, like, thick, or, like, have, like I'll build, like, a thick skin to, like, people who are rude to you for no reason. And that this customer got upset because I wasn't able to sell them alcohol, and I was 16 at the time, bro. Like
Goodness.
legally, I'm yeah, like legally, I'm not. I can't even sell you alcohol. But I guess that would be the thing that I learned from it was how to like. I guess like what I said, be a thick face, thick skin, not thick face, but thick skin to
That's
like
good
rude
though.
customers. Yeah, it really did help me. It was pretty embarrassing that I cried, but shoot, it made me who I am today. So,
Yo,
so thank you for sharing that. So obviously, with you having your first job and all, I'm sure your parents were proud of you, and I'm sure they probably would have given you that talk. With us growing up in a Hmong household, I don't know about you, but for me, like my parents were really stern about, going to my workplace and just having a job in general. So what was something that your parents had always told you about work that still like sticks with you to this day?
um I remember when I told my dad that I had an interview at JCPenney. My mom went with me because I don't think I was able to drive at that time yet. My mom went with me,
Mhm.
which I felt less like anxious. But something like my dad always taught me was that like, as long as you have your two arms and two legs, like that is you can do anything. And so I remember like the interviewer interviewing me and I mentioned that to them and they were like really impressed. I think it's because it really stuck on to me. Like, but that's what my dad says about like our cars too. But mainly like he's very motivating when it and just tells us to, keep working hard as long as you have your arms and legs, you can do anything. And so that still sticks to me to this day. So yeah, what about you?
Mhm. Yeah, no, I've heard the same thing from my parents. Like, yeah, they got you more cheeky, got you more good like basically it takes you everywhere. So, I hear that a lot from like my dad too specifically. But like as similar to you, during that time, I did not know how to drive. So something that my parents always told me was to just keep working hard, like to never quit. Like even though people give you a hard time, to not quit because they were the ones taking me. So like, basically like with Yakubuholu, like you have to do well. You have to make money. You always have to save, save, save. And I think that's also because like it stems back from like how our parents are like refugees and they're immigrants. And like they come here from like a very what is that, underdeveloped like country or like a very poor stance. So I think that's why they're always hustling. So with that, they have taught me to like never just like settle. Like I always have to work. So I feel like even now when I don't have anything to do at work, like, I get antsy because I always have to find work to do. So that's something that my parents have always, like, screwed in my mind is to just, like, always find work to do.
Mhm.
Yeah, even if it's not on your job description, ask them. And I'm like, as I grow older, I'm like, I don't, but like, I'm not supposed to be doing that,
Yeah.
because it's not on my job description. But at the same time, I guess it does show like that you're willing to learn, willing to grow. So
Mhm.
that's something that my parents have always taught me that, still
Mhm.
sticks to me. Yeah. So obviously, we kind of talked about, your first job and what you wanted to be when you were a kid. So as you grew older, what was something that you noticed about like changes in your career paths and your passion?
I would say, like, as I grew older, I didn't wanna be a nurse anymore. I realized that I was not smart enough to be a nurse,
Oh my god.
and I just don't think I could do the hospital setting or, just that
Mhm.
setting, the nursing setting in general, and it, like, just, like, shifted to, makeup and beauty, and so that's, like, a huge change,
Mhm.
I think maybe because, like, in dance, we do a lot of makeup and so I kind of grew up around that and I just loved it. And so it, went into beauty industry and then it changed into more of like business,
Mhm.
which is my most recent job that I went through. Mhm.
Okay. So, like, what about business that kind of like intrigued you into going into it?
Yeah, I think when I had my own, like, when I graduated from beauty school and had my own like small business, you can say, um, then I like the aspect of like digital marketing or just like marketing in general. Like I like social
Mhm.
media marketing, posting and just being active, and I really like teaching as well. So like through my social media posts, I would do a lot of like teaching about like even though I had not that much hair experience, I still like teaching to, just the general audience because some people just don't realize like what us hairstylists think about, And
Mhm.
so, I like that aspect, and then I went into, like, when I had my actual business, position after that, I did a lot of marketing and outreach, and so I think just me being a people person, it just was natural for me to market, I guess you can say, and just, like, do business.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, like, obviously, we worked together before, Manny, so I've seen you do a lot of, like, good marketing stuff, like, most of the time, whenever I, like, create a flyer, I always be coming to you, and you're really good at, like, you have that, like, attention to detail, so it's like you're really good at, like, pinpointing like, "Oh, you need to fix this. Oh, this isn't like balanced." At first, I was like, "How does a fire like balance?" Like, I don't know what that meant. So I did learn a lot from you too. So just want to thank you for that as well. Um, and so I guess for me, as I grew older, um, I mean, up until I guess you could say like when I was younger, I wanted to be a teacher, and then in high school, I wanted to become a lawyer because I went to a home school and okay, very stereotypical, but they had like the only elective classes that they had during that time was like pre-med, law, and engineer. And but this is a Hmong school, right? So it's
Oh,
like a lot of Hmong parents, they want their kids to go into these different fields. So I did not want to go into medical or engineer, so I went with law. So that's why I wanted to go into law. But then I thought about it, I was like, man, do I want to go into law? Like, I had to learn a lot of things, but like, I wanted to go into like law school, and I was like doing my research. I was like, man, this is too expensive. So I just went to, in Milwaukee, and then I tried to pursue education or like, early childhood education. I take my first class and I dropped out right away because I'm like, I can't do this.
really?
Yeah, I was like, man, I thought I'd just go in there and teach ABCs, 1, 2, 3, but I'm like, no, this is more than just that. And so like just knowing myself a little bit more, I don't think I'm patient enough to teach like kids. Only Am I being very transparent? I don't think I'm patient enough to teach, like, kids. I get, like, annoyed really easily. Put me in a room with them, I can play with them all day long, but if you want me to teach them something, I can't do that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so then, I was, like, brainstorming with, like, one of my old coworkers, and they brought up HR, so that's why I went for HR, and that's what I'm doing now. Is this something that I'm passionate in? I don't know. It's still kind of blurry. I can't confidently say yes, but it's something that I'm good at. So I guess one of my passions right now would be, this side gig of this podcast, but a career path that I've chosen that was different was HR. So
Mm.
that's a little bit of my story there.
For me, for a passion that I have recently like found out about myself too is like giving back and just
Mhm,
helping people. So I noticed that I do like teaching as well. Like when I have done teaching for dance, I really like to see like the growth of, my dancers, and then like just that passion of giving back and not even just the community, but like people. It just like gives me a sense of like happiness in a way too, so I would say that's something I'm passionate about too. And so when I'm like trying to find jobs right now, it's like um not only how does it benefit me, but how can I make a difference? Hmm.
mhm. So you mentioned you like giving back. So can you give me like an example of what you did that made you feel like good about yourself that you've given back to the community?
Hmm. Yeah. So for example, like Hmm, there are a lot. Let me think of one that is personal and one that is more like professional development, I guess. So one personal I would say is like since I've been dancing for so long, I gave back by being a judge for dance competitions. And so it's like not only do you give like good feedbacks, you give room of improvements feedback, like, oh, you need like this and this more, or energy levels and all that stuff. So it's like that's something that I'm passionate about, because it's also not just because most times like when you read these scores, like people, they're just like, oh, um they give us like a 7 out of 10, but like what is the reason that we
Mhm,
lost these points, and most
mhm,
times like when you look at scores or the comments, it's just like positive comments, but it's like how can you improve, like
mhm,
criticism. And so for me it's like I really do want to help teams like get to their truest potentials, like reach their truest potentials. um and then like for professional development wise, I would say like in my most recent role is giving back to the community, as in like providing them with funds for their small business. And we did like small business grants, and so that actually really made me feel like um it made a huge difference in all these small businesses. Like you just see their growth, like, and they tell you what they used it on. And when you follow up with them and stuff, like it just makes you feel like very happy, satisfied that you're able to help in a positive way. Mhm.
mhm. Yeah, helping small businesses, when like they have nothing and you give them that small little grant, it can change the whole world for them. So, and I've seen that happen to you too, Manny. So I'm glad that that's something that you did that you really enjoy. And I know you mentioned that you want to help teams, be better. Like, do you have any plans in the future that would like allow you to follow through with your passion more? Like in terms of like giving funds out to small businesses and like helping teams do better at like dancing and stuff.
Yeah. For like personal wise, like for dance, I do have plans to, like go further into the dance industry, I guess you can say, in the Hmong dance community. I won't say too much yet. I don't want
Okay.
to overpromise myself, and I also don't want to, tell too much just in case things don't go through, or things change. But yeah, and then for professional wise, can you repeat that again for the I'm trying to think for the cut that part
Yeah,
out.
like giving small grants to like a little like to I guess like entrepreneurs or small businesses. Not necessarily saying that you should give grants, but, like, in terms of, like, what can you do to, like, help these little, businesses to continue your passion?
Mhm. I think for me, since I like social media marketing, I am still doing like social media marketing by really supporting and promoting their,
Mm.
um, whether it's like events that they're going to or promotions that they have. I think it really doesn't hurt to just click that share button, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, and so it's like even though it's not money that I'm giving out, it's still
Mhm.
marketing for them. And as a small business owner myself too, like it really made me happy when like my friends and family, do that because they can see it, like who's shared it and stuff for
Mhm.
the most part. And it just like makes you feel really happy. And so me being in those shoes once before, I know that I can do it for somebody else too, because then I know how much it means for that person.
Mhm. Yes, girl, I feel you on that. Like one simple, like if people are scrolling on Facebook every single day, you see something pop up, just share it. Like one simple press to the button of share would be okay. Like I think that's doable, and I think that like with that you're advocating for these small businesses and you're helping them get heard in the community. So I think that's good. So thank you for sharing about that. So just kind of in your work history, have you ever experienced anything that had affected your mental health in a negative way? And if so, like what was it and what did you do to improve your mental health?
Yes. So I would say, from what I can remember, like the most recent, I would say is like, recently I got laid off in May, and that it was very, very sudden too. It was very unexpected for not just myself, but like a lot of my other colleagues as well. And so since it was so unexpected, it affected my mental health like a lot because then I started thinking like everything around me, you know? I started thinking like, how am I gonna pay my bills? Like, when's my last paycheck gonna be? Or, like where do I go to now? Who's gonna pay me um this amount? Like, because I don't have a specific degree, in a lot of places they require like at least a batch degree, in marketing and business development. And for me, I just knew that that was a challenge that I was going to have to overcome. And so that really affected my mental health in a negative way. Um, and I think just being left off with a lot of questions that were unanswered, it also affected my mental health a lot. I think what I did to help improve my mental health, I actually didn't do job searching until like I would say a month after, because I was busy with, I guess you can say, more like part-time volunteer work with my dance team too, and so that was like a blessing in disguise for me. My dance team was a blessing in disguise for me because um they were able to help me like get my mind off of unemployment. And so that is what I did to improve my health, my mental health. I did a lot behind the scenes for them, like sewing and all of the other things that you don't see. And so it pushed me away from constantly thinking about work and unemployment. So
Mhm.
that really, really helped me. And now that the dance season is over, I'm like, okay, I guess I'll have to take it a little bit more seriously now. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you, Manny. I mean, unemployment, we both experienced that, with our previous jobs. And I agree, that was like the most pain I've ever felt from like losing a job. Cause like I don't know about you, but before, like whenever I lose a job, I'm like, oh, whatever, like I'll just find a new one, it's replaceable. But our previous job that we worked at together, I feel like that was like it took so much of my identity in terms of like I learned so much from working at a previous job, and it was a job that I really enjoyed doing and that I saw myself doing for a long time. I wanted to stay there, and then on top of that, the fact that we both were laid off like so quickly and like basically it was like unannounced and unexpected. That was the part that kind of took my mental or, like, kind of took a toll on my mental health was, like, seeing that, my coworkers who I care so deeply about were being laid off, and then on top of that, half of the team was still on board and not sure if we have a job or not. Just having the job security like, not having the job security really, messed with my mental health. So when I lost the job, I was relieved, but also sad. Like, the experience with it between, like, you and me, it was quite different because yours was, like, unexpected and mine was, like, I was kind of prepared for it.
Like, for me, it's, like I said, a lot of unanswered questions, like, a lot of
Mhm.
curiosity. It was like a battle for the whole team, like,
Yeah,
um, and it was just really hard, like, just us crying together
I
too, and
know.
all of us just, like, crying together, and it's just so it was such, like, so tragic, um,
Yeah.
but, I think in a way, then maybe I always believe this, that everything happens for a reason. So
Mhm.
I think that in a way is maybe it was a blessing in disguise for myself and maybe everyone else too. Um,
Mhm.
it just sucks.
Yeah, no, for sure, like, I duly believe I truly
I was like, "Wait, are you trying to say ideally, or are you trying to say I do truly?"
I truly I was gonna say I truly do, but I said I duly too believe.
You said I truly? I was like, "What?"
Oh, shit. Okay, you know what? This is going on. Okay, no, that's how you know I fuck with mental mind, with mental
Uh-huh.
mind, mental health. My gosh, what is going on? But anyways, no, I truly do believe that it was a blessing in disguise because, like, I just want to say, like, the job that I have now, there's a lot of good things that, kind of fell into place after being laid off from my previous job. And although that took a huge toll on, like, my mental health, I'm at, like, a better place now. And then, with me dealing with my mental health during that time when I got laid off, I just surrounded myself with a lot of my loved ones, like my friends, my family members. I like, this kind of stems back to what I was talking about. Like, I get antsy when I can't when I'm not working. So right when I found out that my the half of my team were laid off, I started, like, looking for jobs right away. As for you, Manny, you waited for a whole month, and honestly, I should have waited like another month or just waited longer to get back into, like, the work field, because I felt like I was, like, job hopping in a way. Like, I was, like, working, um, at a previous job, got laid off, and then 2 weeks after, I got this new job. And so I didn't get the chance to, like, reflect on what the heck just happened. I didn't get the chance to digest everything. So while I was working at the new job that I'm working at right now, I was feeling, like, happy, but also very sad because it's like, "Dang, I'm back in the work field before I even know it." And I that's the thing. Like, I wish if I could go back, I would redo that again. It just kind of, yeah,
Yeah,
waited.
yeah, I think it's interesting that you say that because it took me so long to, like, comprehend and, like, digest everything and just accept it, and some people, like, they're just like, "Okay, you know what? Move on," right? But for me, I think I was
Mhm,
so devastated that I was like, "Okay, I need to just soak it all in first, come to reality about it, and then, like, once I come to terms and accept it, then I can move on." Um,
mhm,
and in a way, I think I waited, like, too long, so that's why I say it's interesting that you say you wish you would've, taken,
mhm.
like, the break, but, you gotta do what you gotta do, so.
That's true. These bills don't pay themselves, so
Mm.
I'm glad that, like, I did find a job right away, but at the same time, I wish I like, just for my mental health, I wish I would've waited. Yeah, but either way, like what you said, life goes on. It is what it is. It happened, and you just gotta keep moving on and be very demure about it.
Yeah.
So so obviously, talking about finding jobs, some people may think that finding a job is easy, while some might think that, it's super hard. Would you mind kind of explaining like your experience with job hunting and how that can take a toll on your mental health as well?
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I have been applying. So I am going through like unemployment, and so like unemployment like funds through the government. And so the thing is they require you to do 4 work searches minimum a week. And so obviously since like May, I have been doing that up until September, and it's so hard. The thing is, it's so hard to find a job that you want to like you're thinking long term. At least I am. I'm thinking long term. Like now that I'm getting to that age where I'm like adulting more, then I'm like, okay, I need a job that is, give me 401k, health benefits, like life insurance, like all these benefits that you need. And it's funny because like back in the I guess all before that, I would just settle with like, I don't know, a very I didn't care to look at the benefits part, because you were so young. You're like, I'm under my parents. I don't need it. And you were just like what is it? Free. You just felt more free. But now it's like you're getting to that age, and so finding a job that you feel that would align with your values and skill sets, it's so hard. I didn't want to settle in a job where I feel like um it won't challenge me. I want to be somewhere where I can continue to grow, but to be in a job where you really, really want, and it's hard.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really hard. And I think one thing I can vouch for is that like you can apply to like 300 jobs and like two of them will call you back. And maybe only one of them will give you an interview. You go into this interview and you might not even get the position because there's like 10 other people that applied and they're interviewing, for this role. So it's a tough competition out here. I feel your stress, and it's something that I can share with you, in terms of like, affecting my freaking mental health. Like I said, I started like job hunting right away, and I would stay up till like 3, 4 in the morning just to apply for jobs. I
Mhm.
applied for anything that came up. Like I was ready to settle. That's how desperate I was, because I think it also stems from the fact that, like, my parents always told me, like, "You're getting older, you need to find a secure job, a job that would be stable." And I've always vouched that, like, "Oh, no, my previous job, it is gonna be stable, like, we're gonna help the Hmong community, it's something that I love doing," and then bam, like, we get laid off. So, I guess most of the time they were kind of like, "I told you so," like, they were giving me the "I told you so" attitudes. So I wanted to just like I was being desperate and I wanted to, find a job quickly to just get myself back on my feet. And I went so crazy that I started like applying for like VP jobs, like vice president of a company job type shit, because I was so
Damn.
desperate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was so desperate. I'm like, you know what? I've seen cases where like people with like no experience get a good ass job, and it's because of their personality and the way how they carry themselves, and being really open to learn different new skill sets and stuff. I mean, like I didn't get the position.
Did you
I
interview
didn't.
for it?
No, I didn't even get a call.
Oh,
But you know what? I tried.
right, right.
Like, I went out of my way. I stepped outside the box. I'm like, I'm willing to take whatever. Yeah, so that's the difference between like I see that between you and me is that like I feel like for you, you carefully choose like what kind of jobs you want. But for me, I was like, I'm applying for everything. I'll take whatever comes first. Like that was that's the difference I see between like me and you. And I find that so funny and interesting and crazy at the same time.
Well, I did have that desperation mode for a bit,
Mhm.
um, especially one time when like I actually went through like a what is it? A staffing agency,
Mhm.
and they the place that or I should say their client, right? So the staffing agency, their client wanted me and offered me the job, but they were paying me like pretty low, and I just like couldn't, and it was like a 30-minute like travel, and I was like, man, I don't know, like how two maybe a third of my paycheck will go to like gas or you think about it.
Mhm.
And so I was kind of like thinking about it, and I actually got like I didn't go for it. Um, and unemployment questioned me. And so there was a time when I didn't get paid for like 2 weeks. And I was like, oh my God. So that was a desperation mode because I was like, oh my God, like I need money right now. So that was like, so I did have like the desperation mode, like you too, Um,
Mhm.
and I talking about like, cases where what is it? Where you've seen cases where they just like up in the company, right?
Mhm.
I that's why I kind of was like trying to, I guess, in a way, think too. And I think it's also sad that the employers, the I get it that they require like, the education, the higher education and stuff. But I also believe that like, someone who is willing can do it, like, you just gotta give them a chance, And that person is me, man. I feel like I'm a really, really hardworking person that, like, even though I don't have like the education, like somebody who has a badge, but I am so willing to learn. And
Mhm.
versus like maybe that person might not even be willing to, and
Yeah.
might have the education. So I'm just like, oh, it just kind of sucks that, sometimes they just go off of like the education and they don't give you a chance in an interview or just to
Mhm.
really see your true character and personality. Yeah, and I think that's also the hard part and something that took a toll on my mental health too. It's like I know that I can do it, but it's the chance that they're not giving you.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. Like with me, so I'm currently working as a talent acquisition, so I'm a recruiter. So I do see a lot of like resumes on a daily basis and stuff like that. So, obviously there are like certain recs that I've worked with before where like they would require, an education, and I think most of those are like higher up, like VP jobs.
Oh yeah, well
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
understandable.
Yeah, but then, like, let's say, like, I typically look for, people who have the experience rather than those who have the education, because if you think about it, a fresh graduate outside of college comes and work for you, and they never been in that kind of environment before, they can the chances of them fucking up is higher than those who don't have the education for it, but have the experience, right?
Mhm.
So, for me, specifically, I like to look for personality and experiences, but it just really it's like very different for every company. But I do agree. I do think that like we're in the 21st century, like that should change, In education, it's great, but in terms of like recruiting people for a job, they should really give everyone a chance as an individual deserves.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is.
Um, so obviously, you mentioned that that took a really huge toll on your mental health. So kind of going back now, if you can go back and give advice to like your younger self about different career choices, like what would you say to your younger self?
I have thought about this like recently a lot of times. And advice I would give my younger self is just honestly just go back to college. Like just go to college straight out of high school. Even if you don't know what you're going into. Like I went into a year and a half in like my generals, but I dropped out because I didn't know what I wanted to do still, even after like a year and a half. And I was like, instead of wasting money, I'm just like gonna work and
Mhm,
I could, make the same amount as I would, if I got like a batch or, higher education. Well, now that I think back to it, I'm like, I wish I would have just really kept going and not drop out so fast and like give up so fast.
mhm,
Um, Even if I don't know, like business is such a generalized field and there's so much different um what is it like categories of business in the business field,
mhm. Very
and so
broad.
Yeah, it's very broad and you could do so much with it. So, if I could go back, I would just go into business because you can basically get through anything with business pretty much.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find it really interesting that you say that because for me, if I can go back, I would tell myself to slow down on going to pursuing like my higher education right after high school. I find that funny. And if like you've listened to the audience, if you listen to like my old episodes from the first season, I tend to say this a lot because it's true. If I can go back and give advice to my younger self about my career choices, I would tell myself to find out who I am first, like finding out like what I'm really passionate in,
Mhm.
and then go into school. Because I feel like with me getting my HR degree, I kind of just got it because, like what you said, it's really broad, very general. It
Mhm.
can get me like a job anywhere basically, but also because I can say like 75% of the reason is because I was a junior and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I just simply chose a degree just to choose it. So yeah. So if I would go back and redo college all over again, I would probably pursue psychology because I do want to become like a counselor or like a therapist, like more like a mental health therapist for people. So yeah.
I think you do really good at that. I mean,
Really?
yeah, but you know what? Even right now, it's not too late. You have your HR degree. She getting paid good. And plus, like it's not too late for you to go back if you ever decide to.
I
And
know.
you are really good at just like giving advice, giving that feedback, and being very, really positive, like turning the negatives into positive. You know what I mean? As your best friend, I see that. So it's like, you can, I know that you can, if you really wanted to, you can definitely still do it. And it's something
Yeah.
definitely up your aisle. Mhm.
Thank you. I know like I did consider going back, after I got laid off. I did consider going back, but I like the like I like the my bills and I like the like my debt. My debt, I'm like, ooh, I don't know if I want to go back. And the thing is, if I were to go back, it would be considered like a second bachelor's degree.
Mhm.
It would not be a master's because I don't have all of like the core classes needed for the psychology program. So I was like, dang, that's like another 4, 6 years. I'm like, do I want to do that? I
Mm.
don't know. So that's the thing. I think, yeah, I settled. And like it is true, it's never too late for pursuing your education. And I will always, advocate for that because I truly believe it. But for me specifically, I think my priority right now is just to save money. With the like market being so high right now too, it's crazy.
Yes.
It's like us as like Gen Zs, we can't even manage to live on ourselves, with just like a $18 an hour income. Or
Mhm.
even that $25 an hour. Like that's still like just very low to like the market right now. So I think that's why I'm just always like hustling, trying
Mhm.
to, yeah, I'm just working and saving up.
Mhm.
But thank you for your kind words. Okay, so to kind of conclude today's episode, I guess the last question I want to ask you is like, what advice would you give to people who are struggling with finding a job that can support them and their families? Like, what have you done to help you cope with it? And yeah, what advice do you have for people?
I would say like honestly, an advice that I would give somebody is keep trying. Because, like and just don't give up. I know that's very, like, vague, and everyone probably says that, but, I was at that point too, and when I did wanna just, like, give up, like, I couldn't because there was so much things, like, holding me back, like, I had to be responsible for so many things. So,
Mhm.
definitely, just don't give up, and also don't, like, rush yourself. Um, like, when I was going through I think a couple months ago when, all this unemployment thing happened, I was go I was going through, like, a phase of, like, seeing angel numbers, and I think to me, that just, really helped me understand that, like, it's okay to just take a step back and, really reflect, and it's the universe trying to tell you something, you know? So
Mhm.
the angel numbers that I kept seeing was the numbers 222, and I literally saw it everywhere. But not just those numbers, I see like a lot of repetitive numbers too, like threes and fours and fives as well. And I do research on them. Like, why do I keep seeing these numbers? But the main numbers I kept seeing was 222. And I looked it up and it was just more like alignment and trust. Like you are on the right place in the right path all at the right time, and just stay focused on the things that you want in life. So that really helped me like understand that, like, okay, like I said before, everything happens for a reason. um and desperate times call for desperate needs, so I totally understand if you have to, like, rush yourself into getting a job. But at the same time, it's like, um really know yourself too. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. I think that's really reassuring to just me listening. I think it's like really reassuring. So to the listeners out there, I hope that it's reassuring to you as well. I guess for me, an advice that I can give to people while like job hunting is that like just to let you know, to make it like a routine. Like don't just apply to like 3 jobs today and expect them to call you back right away. Like don't rush the process. Like what Manny said, don't rush the process. Take your time. I kind of rushed it, but that was a learning lesson for me. So don't learn from that. So what I'm trying to say is don't do what I did. So don't rush the process. And make it a routine thing. So like every single day, maybe apply it to like 3 or 4 or 5 jobs because just as a recruiter, I can tell you guys that every single day there is a new job posted on the job market. So basically, like just always checking. And if you were to apply to a job that you really, really want, always follow up as well. Send them an email, making sure to check the status of your application. And even if you don't get a response back, it's okay. There are other jobs out there that may be a better fit for you. So just like what Manny said, reiterating that don't ever give up. And you're not alone in this as well. Try different networks, like not just Indeed and LinkedIn, but like maybe like joining different groups within Facebook. Manny, what other ones have you tried?
um I would say, like, well, like, definitely, like, word of mouth.
Mm,
Like, just asking around as well. um and trying different apps like Monster or like ZipRecruiter,
mhm,
instead of just like LinkedIn or Indeed. And um connections, yeah, word of mouth,
mhm.
connections.
Yeah, yeah, those are big ones. So I guess those are the advice that I would give to you all as well as Manny. So thank you for that, Manny. So to conclude, I do want to read a quote. It's by unknown, so it doesn't really have an author, but I found it online and it says, "A bad job is harder on your mental health than unemployment." So kind of just hearing that, Manny, what are your thoughts on this quote?
Um, yeah, I definitely agree with this, mainly because like a bad job takes more of your mental health because you're dreading it every single day. Or whatever project you're doing for that job, and a lot of people, they quit jobs because they don't feel valued, they don't feel like they're seen or heard. And so that really takes a toll on your mental health as well when you're in an environment that you're just like dreading. And what is it? Yeah, it's definitely harder on your mental health than unemployment, because during unemployment, most people, like even myself, I use that time to recuperate, re-energize myself, really do a lot of self-reflections, and really know my capabilities and my skill sets, and so yeah, I this quote is a reality check for those who are having a hard time with work or employment right now. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah. No, I agree. It's hard to think about like it's like a internal battle every time when you think about like should I stay at a job because it pays good or should I just quit? because unemployment, it's a struggle too. It's a struggle both ways. So I think you pick and choose your battles. You pick and choose your hard. Everything's gonna be hard. You know, if life was easy, we all be in a good place right now. So I just like with me looking at this or just hearing this quote, it kind of brought me back to like my first big girl job at like a corporate office. I stayed there because I thought I was obligated to stay there for a long time since that was the first big girl job that I had. So even though it was like very draining every single day, it was I felt like a robot every single day. You know, I didn't feel like a person. I felt like just a number to the company. I felt undervalued, and I think I stayed only because I thought I was paying good at the time. And like I said, that was my first big girl job, and I wanted to stay long because it'll give me a good tenure on my resume. But comparing that time to the time when I was unemployed for a short like month, man, I'd rather take that month of unemployment than going back to work for, you know, that toxic work environment. Only because with you being unemployed, you go at your own pace. You don't have to reach anybody's expectations. Nobody's on your back. You know, like you find a job whenever you want to. So I guess I do agree with this quote. I think this quote it has a deep meaning to it. So thank
Mhm.
you for sharing your thoughts on that, Manny. So before we close off this session, do you have any last remarks about today's session with me and you being the first guest on season two?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you for having me on. This is something I haven't talked about in a while, I would say.
Mhm,
Just because like what is it? Everyone around me just knew that I was unemployed, and it was just like I didn't get the chance to really go into details about any of, anything of how I felt and all that process because it is hard, and especially when outsiders, they it can be a, what is a sensitive topic
mhm,
for, if you don't want to just come off rude and ask people
mhm,
and stuff like that. And so having this conversation in this session really just helps, what is it, elaborate a little bit more about how it feels like for me to be unemployed, and also for
mhm.
anyone out there, what you have to go through. You basically have to start from square one again, and so
Yeah.
yeah, and so it was a good session. It was like therapy for me again because now that I'm still unemployed, then I feel like it's, yeah, I haven't talked about it in a while, so it was a good refresher. I do also wanna say that, I wanna thank my partner as well. My husband, he's been really supportive through all this too. He's been really understanding in everything that I'm doing, like, with unemployment and dance, and hasn't like nudged me so much about it because he knows how stressful it can be. So I'm super thankful for him too. Just having a lot of the friends and family support, and just I have a really great circle for me with my friends and family, and so I'm super thankful for them for continuously giving me that reassurance and guidance. So I love
Mhm.
them.
Oh, that's so sweet. I mean, like having a very supportive circle is very important during a hard time. So thank you for sharing that. Thank you, Manny, for coming on here and being so willing to share your experiences and stories on my podcast. I think it's something that can be relatable to people who were probably once in your shoes or are probably in your shoes right now. So thank you for being vulnerable and coming on here to talk about it. Make sure to follow Untamed Minds on Spotify, Facebook, and YouTube. Yes, we're on YouTube now, so please make sure to follow me there. Like, subscribe, comment, do whatever, share. And just want to say thank you all for listening to today's episode. I really and truly appreciate every single one of you and your support. And most importantly, Manny, for coming on here to talk about her story. Other than that, thank you so much, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.